Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Krista, and for today's class, we're going to be doing a beginner flow. So for today's class, we're going to be more so focusing on those foundational elements of a yoga practice, really building strength in those foundational poses. And if you have blocks at home, please feel free to grab those or to grab books, preferably at the same height. So if you were to just lay the books on the floor, they'd be relatively the same height. So let's get started today. We're going to get started on our back. And just bring the soles of the feet onto the floor with your knees pointed up towards the sky. We're going to start to just wake up the body very slowly, warming up through the legs and the core. So begin to draw your knees in towards your chest, maybe bringing your hands onto the backs of the thighs or onto the knees or shins. Compression between the belly and your thighs, and maybe swaying side to side to bring a gentle massage across your low back. Yeah, and then throughout our practice today, just really focus on keeping the breath very minimal, very natural. And if at any point you feel like your breath is very labored and it's hard to catch your breath, please feel free to take rest. I'll show you some resting options, and just feel free to lay there until your breath can help you calm your nervous system, calm your heart rate down. So bring the soles of the feet back down onto the floor. With that right leg, start to point the toes and kick your toes up towards the ceiling, straightening through that leg. As much as it's comfortable for you, the leg might not completely straighten. And then flex the foot, bend the knee, bringing your heel towards your bum. Yeah, and then point the toes, kick the toes up towards the ceiling. Think of engaging the front of that thigh, your quadricep. Flex the toes, and then kick the heel towards your bum. And just keep moving with this. So what we're doing is, they're called nerve glides in the PT world. But what we're doing is we're warming up the backs of the legs. We're warming up the hamstring, but as well as that nerve that runs along the back of the leg. So sometimes it's not necessarily the muscles that restrict us from being flexible or having more range. Sometimes it can be the nerve, and with the nerve you don't want to stretch for long periods of time. You want to wake it up very slowly, because it's something that takes a lot of time to build more length in. Yeah, and maybe as you're going through this, you're noticing that you find more openness through the back of the leg, maybe even in throughout the ankle. Let's do a couple more. Awesome. And then next time your leg lowers down, just put the sole of the foot onto the floor. Just bringing the feet about hip distance apart or so. Maybe you can tickle the backs of the heels with your fingertips, and then press your hands into the floor and press your feet into the floor, and start to just lift your hips and think of squeezing your bum and squeezing the inner thighs together, but almost like you're holding like a beach ball between your legs. You don't want to bring the knees together. So yeah, just staying here. So it's really about engaging and building that strength in the back body. Yeah, maybe with every inhale and every exhale breath, maybe you start to lift your hips a little bit higher. Awesome. One more inhale here. And then on your exhale, just start to roll the spine down back onto the floor. Awesome. And we're going to do that one more time. So inhale, begin to pick up the hips. Press the feet into the mat. Maybe your hips lift a little bit higher than they did before. Breathe. Awesome. And then exhale, curl the spine down. From here, begin to draw the knees in towards the chest. And then bring your shins about parallel to the floor and your knees to stack over your hips. We're going to find a little bit of core strength here. So by bringing the knees over the hips, you might feel like your back is arching a little bit. I want you to think of pressing your low back into the mat. Bring your hands onto your thighs. And just gently press your hands into your thighs and your thighs into your hands. And this is going to start to engage your whole entire core. But I want you to breathe through it, breathe through the shakiness. And think of actively trying to bring that low back down onto the floor. Yeah. We'll stay here for 5 more breaths. Just allow your breaths to be very natural, even though your body might be a little bit shaky. Awesome. And then once you finish your last breath, just gently release your feet down onto your mat. And just take the knees side to side. Just finding some windshield wiper motions with the knees. And then next time your knees point up towards the ceiling, just make sure you even out your sides. And we're going to kind of run through that again on the other side. So from here, start to kick up through the left toes this time, straightening through your left leg. Flex your left foot and then draw your heel towards your bum. So now we're going to start to wake up through that left leg. And it's really good to warm up our joints, warm up our muscles gradually as we get into our practice, so that we can avoid any injury or any pain, especially through a lifelong practice. If yoga is something that you want to include in your everyday life. Yeah, so we'll just do a few more. So point on the way up and then flex on the way down. And as you point, think of squeezing your quadricep muscles. Awesome. Last one. And then drop your foot down on towards the floor. We're going to come back to that bridge pose. So press your hands into the mat, press the soles of the feet into the mat, and inhale, pick up your hips. See if you can go a little bit higher. Really think of squeezing the glutes. And maybe you start to almost squeeze the shoulder blades together. So you tuck the shoulders underneath your back. And this is just an option, but you can think of interlacing the hands underneath your back and then straightening the hands underneath you. And maybe you don't get there today, but maybe this is something that you can always work towards. And then exhale, release the hands if you have it, and then roll the spine down. Awesome, we're gonna find that pose one more time. So on the inhale breath, lift the hips up. Again, option to keep the hands down or interlace the fingers. Straighten the arms, press the hips a little bit higher. Now, I always like to say in our yoga poses, there's no such thing as a perfect pose or a perfect way the pose should look. It's going to look different in any body shape, and any level of experience. So it's really important to just honor wherever your body is from day to day. And then exhale, roll the spine down. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Maybe take hand one on top of each knee and just take circles with the knees. And just finding our core, a little core strengthener again. Drawing the knees over the hips, shins parallel to the floor. Press your hands into your thighs. Think of pressing your low back into the floor. Awesome. Breathe here, keep breathing. Last few breaths here. And release the feet back down and just find some windshield wiper motions, moving from one side to the other. Awesome. And then bring your knees back to center. Raise your right arm overhead. Come to roll on the right side of your body. And then push your left hand into the floor to come up to a seated position. Now we're just going to sit cross-legged. If sitting like this is uncomfortable, bring a block and just slide it underneath your bum. And then once you get into a comfortable seat, just bring the hands onto the thighs. And then start to drop your right ear down towards your right shoulder. Really relax both shoulders down, just finding a stretch in through the left side of the neck. And then start to drop your chin down towards the center of your chest. And then bring your left ear towards your left shoulder. And slowly down towards the center of your chest. And then lift your head all the way up. And just give your shoulders a roll forward and back. And we'll start to wake up through the shoulders a little bit here. So bring your arms in line with the shoulders, palms face forward, thumbs are pointed up towards the ceiling. And then bend the elbows and bring your hands behind your head. Think of squeezing your shoulder blades back behind you towards your spine. Extend the arms and then flip the palms. So now my thumb is pointed down and my palm is facing behind me. And then bend the elbows and then think of bringing the tops of the hand to your low back. And I'm just going to turn around so you can see this. So from here, I'm going to bend the elbows, bring the hands behind my head, and then extend the arms, rotate thumb down, palms back, and then bend the elbows, bringing them to my low back. Extend, flip the palm to face forward, and then hands behind the head. And just keep moving with that. And what we're doing here, you might start to feel a little bit of burn in the shoulders. And this is going to help support us through the rest of our practice. Awesome. The next time you finish, as you inhale, palms face up towards the sky, reach up, maybe look up. And then exhale, lower your hands down through heart center. Now just remove the block from underneath you. We're going to find a tabletop position. So spread the fingertips wide, or spread the fingers wide, and you want to bring your shoulders on top of the wrists and your hips over the knees. And we're just going to start to warm up through the wrists. So just start to shift your weight forward and back. Think of pressing the knuckle of your index finger down into the floor of both hands. This is going to help really keep the fingers, the hands active. Maybe your shoulders will start to track past your shoulders. Your shoulders track past your wrists. And then as I'm shifting my weight forward, when I can't go any more forward, I like to think of pressing the pads of every finger into the mat to kind of pull myself back. And this is going to really help to wake up through the muscles of the hands, the forearms. Awesome. Now come back to a neutral spine. So shoulders, again, are stacked over the wrists and hips are over the knees. Let's move through some cat-cow to wake up through the spine. So on my inhale breath, I'm going to start to tilt my tailbone up towards the sky. I'm going to drop my belly and then lift my head and my chest up towards the sky as well. And then as you exhale, think of tucking your tail between your legs. Think of squeezing your bum and then hollowing out through the low belly. Puff up the upper back and then tuck your chin down towards your chest. Inhale for your cow pose. Yeah, so tailbone and chest look up. And then exhale, think of rounding your spine. Push the floor away from you to feel that roundness in the upper back. Inhale for your cow pose. Allow the belly to drop down towards the floor. And exhale for your cat pose. And what we're doing here is we're starting to connect our breath with our movement. Yeah, so with every inhale, move into your cow pose. And every exhale brings you into your cat pose. And we'll just do a couple more like that. And then once you find your cat pose again, just come back to a neutral spine, untuck the toes, start to sit your hips back onto the heels, walk your hands forward, and then lower your chest down towards the floor, and then maybe your forehead comes onto the floor as well. Keep reaching the arms forward, keep the arms active. Keep pressing the hands into the mat. And then start to lift yourself back up to your tabletop. And I just want you to tuck the toes under. We're gonna move in from child's pose to a low plank or a modified plank. So start to sit the hips back towards the heels. And with your toes tucked, this is going to bring a nice stretch in through the feet. And then as you inhale, start to shift your weight forward, bringing your hips past your knees and stacking your shoulders over your wrists. Yeah, and then start to send the hips back. And then on the inhale breath, shift your weight forward, creating a diagonal with the body from the crown of the head all the way down towards the knees. Yeah, send the hips back. And then come all the way forward into that modified plank. And in your modified plank, think of tucking your tail between your legs. So you're squeezing the glutes. Again, push the hands away from the floor. Hold here. Yeah, and then just come back to tabletop for a minute. Now, option to stay here with your hands on the ground. To make it just a touch easier, we can bring our blocks or our books onto the lowest level and bring your hands onto those blocks. So from here, same thing. We're going to shift our weight back to a little child's pose, shift your weight forward into that modified plank. And then from here, think of bending the elbows, hug the elbows towards the ribs, and then lower the chest down. Push the hands away, and then send the hips back. So we're almost doing like a little push-up, and this is going to help to build strength for what's called like a vinyasa flow or like a chaturanga. And I want you to think when you shift your weight forward to come all the way down into your depth and then push yourself back up. So if you're not doing it with blocks, the blocks just add a little bit of extra height. So as you come forward into your modified plank, bend the elbows, lower down, maybe your nose touches the floor, keep the core engaged, push the floor away, come back to your modified plank, send the hips back. Awesome. Next time you find your high plank, this time we're going to lower all the way onto our belly. So really lowering with control, really building that strength in the arms and the shoulders that we need. So untuck the toes. And on your inhale, begin to lift the chest, lift the head. Think of squeezing the shoulder blades together. Press the tops of the feet into the mat. Engage the glutes. Keep the legs engaged. This is your baby cobra. Yeah, warming up through the back body. And then exhale, lower down. Inhale, begin to bring your hands underneath the shoulders. Push the floor away, come back to tabletop. Lower your hips down, child's pose. Now start to shift your weight forward, come into a tabletop. And begin to straighten the right leg. Keep your toes on the ground to start. And then squeeze your bum to lift the leg up to in line with your spine or in line with your hip. You can point the toes, you can flex the foot, whatever feels best to you. And we're just going to find a little core plank. So as you exhale, begin to bend the knee, draw the knee in towards your chest, puff up the upper back, and try and bring your nose to your knee. As you inhale, start to send the leg back. Option to add in the arms here so that you can start to tent the left fingertips. And as you draw in, you're relying less on the weight of that hand. Or you can extend the left fingertips towards the top of your mat. So we're reaching in opposite directions, and then on the exhale, we'll curl everything in. Yeah, really engaging that core. Inhale to extend. Let's do one more. The slower you move, the more strength you build. Awesome. Extend. Now bring the left hand down, bring the right toes down. Now pivot the back heel down so my foot's flat. And just kick out the left toes slightly, just to use as a kickstand. Now you can tent the right fingertips. Maybe you bring your right hand to your hip, if you can find a good balance point, or bring your right hand up towards the sky. Yeah, and you want to think of drawing that bottom rib and your hip bone together. So you don't want to be arching the back in any weird way. You want to remain strong in the core. And then from here, maybe you can start to lift that back leg, and you want to really engage the outer hips here. And think of reaching up and back to with the foot that's elevated with the heel. Yeah, hold here. Stay here for one more breath. And then exhale, lower that foot back down. Pivot back onto the right toes and bring the right hand down towards the floor. Now drop the back knee. We're going to come back to that modified plank. And then on your exhale, begin to lower down all the way onto the floor. Really moving nice and slow with awareness, with our full range of motion. And then untuck the toes. We're going to find a locust pose. So bring the hands alongside the body, palms face down. And on your inhale breath, start to lift the chest. Fly the arms back behind you. Squeeze the shoulder blades, squeeze the bum. Hold here. Maybe you start to lift the legs off of your mat so the feet are hovering, crown of the head reaching forward, really engaging the whole back body. And then exhale, lower everything down towards the floor. Bring your hands back underneath the shoulders and then push into the floor. Come back to tabletop. And we'll do that little sequence on the other side. So from here, start to extend the left leg back behind you. Option to start with your toes down and then lift the leg using the strength of your glute. And then as you exhale, curl the knee in towards the center of your chest. Touch your knee to your nose, and then inhale, let's kick it back. Option to tent the right fingertips this time. Exhale, let's curl it in. Inhale to extend. And then again, option to take it one step further. Right fingertips reach forward, left toes reach back. And exhale, let's curl everything in towards the center. Inhale, extend. One more time, everything towards the center of the body. Inhale, extend. Drop the right hand down, left toes down. Pivot on the back heel. Just bring the right toes out to the side to help you with balance. And again, you can come onto the left fingertips. Maybe you bring your left hand onto your hip. Or reach the left fingertips up towards the sky. Yeah, maybe the work here is just finding a balanced pose here. If you want to take it a little bit further, start to lift that back leg up to hip height, and you're really going to start to feel the outer hips engage to lift that leg. Oh yeah, legs can feel very heavy. Stay here for one more breath in. And exhale, lower that foot down, pivot onto the back toes. Bring the left hand down towards your mat. Bring the left knee to meet the right. And then shift your weight forward, dropping through the hips. But think of, again, squeezing the glutes, core nice and tight. And we'll bend the elbows lower for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, and for 1. Awesome. And then from here, again, we're going to find our locust pose. So on the inhale breath, again, arms by your side, start to extend the crown of the head forward, chest reaches up, arms fly back, maybe the toes lift. If you want to feel a little bit more of the hamstrings, bring a slight bend into the knees, and you'll feel your bum and your hamstrings really engage. And then exhale, let's release everything. Bring the hands underneath your shoulders. Push yourself back. Come to child's pose. Stay here. Take a few deep breaths in and out through the nose, allowing the mind to relax, allowing the breath to soften a little bit more. And now come back to your tabletop. And we're going to find a downward facing dog. And if you get to your downward dog and you're like, this does not feel good in my body, just keep, just stay with your tabletop. So we're going to start by feeling what it feels like to shift our weight into our hands. So I want you to think of being nice and strong through the hands, pushing them into the floor. Try not to drop through the shoulders. Really think of puffing up the upper back. Tuck your toes under. Nice strong core. See if you can hover the knees off of your mat. Oh yeah, that's a lot of work for the body. Your body might not be used to it. Drop the knees down if you need to. And now we'll find a downward facing dog. So how I like to do this is just walk my hands just a touch forward, tuck my toes, start to lift my knees and send the hips back. And keep your knees bent here. So we're creating this upside down V shape with the body. My sits bones are reaching up and back in space. And my knees are bent, and I'm thinking of sinking my chest down towards my thighs. Maybe you stay with bent knees. Maybe you play with drawing your heels down towards the floor. They may not touch, and they may not ever touch. It really depends on the structure of your body. And just see what that feels like in through the shoulders. Maybe think of shifting your weight more so into the feet. Maybe you need to walk the hands back a little bit to bring less pressure in through the hands. Now start to very slowly walk your feet up towards your hands. And I'm going to invite you now to reach for your blocks and bring them on their highest height. So we want to stay in this forward fold shape with the body. Bring a generous bend into the knees and think of resting your belly onto your thighs. Hands can rest onto the floor, onto your blocks. And on your next inhale breath, we're going to lift up to a flat back. So on your inhale, begin to reach the chest forward. Lift up so the crown of the head reaches forward. And then exhale, let's fold forward. And we'll do that a couple more times. Inhale, lift to a flat back. Option to bring your fingertips to your shins and see how that feels. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold it out. Now start to gently curl the spine up, vertebrae by vertebrae. So pressing into the feet, allowing the head and neck to be heavy until we come up to stand. Bring your hands onto your low back. Roll the shoulder blades up and back. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Maybe find an opening through across the chest. And then exhale, come back to a neutral spine. On your next inhale breath, start to reach the arms up towards the sky. Allow your gaze to follow. Exhale, hinge from the hips. Lower your hands back down onto the blocks. Forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold it out. Now from here, we're going to step our left foot all the way to the back of our mat, and we're going to come down onto the knee. If you need to, please feel free to put a pillow or a blanket underneath the knee. The blocks are going to frame my front foot just to give me a little bit more lift. Once you have a nice strong foundation in through the feet and in through the back leg, start to lift your chest. Maybe take your arms up overhead. And the hips can be sinking forward. Maybe you stay with a more 90-90 stance. And you want to think of squeezing that left glute and tucking the tail as you lean your weight forward. That's going to build a little bit of a deeper stretch. So on your inhale breath, just allow the arms to drop by your side. Maybe just a little back bend. Send your chest up and forward. And then exhale, think of rounding the spine. Reach your arms forward. Inhale, open up through across the chest. And then exhale, round the spine, reach forward. Awesome. Bring your hands back down onto your blocks. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee up. And just see how that feels. Maybe coming light on the fingertips, maybe hovering your hands. Whew. Bringing your hands down onto the block. Bring the back knee down, untuck the toes, and then start to send your hips back. Walk your hands back with your blocks and straighten through that front leg. And you don't have to straighten your leg completely. I like to have a slight bend in my knee because I want to feel the stretch in the hamstring and not behind my knee. And just lean your chest forward. Awesome. And then walk your blocks forward, come back into that lunge. Just remove your blocks off to the side. And we're going to step that right leg back. So both our knees are together. And you can stay on your knees, or if you want to build up your plank and see how that feels, tuck the toes under, lift the knees. And on your exhale, let's lower all the way down onto the ground. Awesome. Untuck the toes. We're going to find our baby cobra. So on your inhale breath, roll the shoulder blades back and together. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, lower down. Begin to push into the hands. Come back into tabletop. Then tuck the toes under for your downward facing dog. Breathe here. Try and find some calmness between the ears, some calmness in the breath. And it may not feel like it now, but over time, this pose will come, may come a little bit easier and easier, where you find a little bit of rest in this pose. Now slowly start to walk your feet back up towards your hands. Again, using your blocks if you need to. Coming into that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift to that flat back. Exhale, fold it out. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Start to curl the spine up vertebrae by vertebrae. The head and neck will come up last. And just spend a moment here grounding down through the soles of the feet. Maybe shifting your weight side to side, forward and back. Really finding that balance in through the feet. And on your next inhale breath, start to bring your hands to the low back, little back bend. Inhale, reach your chest forward, squeeze the glutes. And then come back up to stand. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your hands back down onto your blocks. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold it out. This time, step your right foot all the way to the back of your mat. Drop the back knee down. Yeah, just walk your blocks to frame that front foot a little bit better. And then once you're here, lift the chest. Nice strong foundation built through the legs, and then maybe you start to take your reach up overhead. If this is a lot, feel free to bring your hands to heart center, maybe onto the hips, or keep them on your blocks. And then on your next inhale breath, open up through the chest, drop the arms alongside the body. And then as you exhale, just start to reach forward, really rounding through your back. Inhale, let's open up, finding a little bit of a back bend. And then exhale, curl it all in. Awesome. Inhale, let's reach up for your low lunge. And then bring your hands down towards your blocks. Option just to move the blocks out of the way. If you're not moving the blocks right away, what you can do, slide that foot back so your knees come together. Move the blocks. Bring your hands onto the mat. Send your hips forward, coming into your modified plank or your full plank. Exhale, let's lower down. Awesome. Untuck the toes. Inhale for your baby cobra. Squeeze the bum. Engage the legs. Exhale, release. Push your hands into the floor. Come back to child's pose or downward facing dog. If you need to take rest, please feel free to come into a child's pose whenever you need to, or just lay on your back. And wherever you are, we're going to all meet in downward facing dog. Maybe spend a few breaths here before walking the feet up to meet your hands. And again, using your blocks if you need to. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold it out. Curl the spine up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Head and neck come up last. Bring your feet about a comfortable distance, about hip distance apart or so. And then start to send your hips back, bend your knees, coming into a chair pose. Hands can just rest on your hips. They can come to heart center or reach your fingertips up towards the sky. Try not to arch your back here. We really want to keep the core nice and tight. Yeah, with every exhale, maybe sinking your bum a little bit further. Awesome. And then bring your hands to heart center. Shift your weight into your right foot. And then step your left foot to the back of your mat. Yeah, and then gently start to lift your chest up. So we're coming into a crescent lunge. The distance between your feet can be whatever is comfortable for you. And once you're here, once you feel stable, you find that connection to the midline of your body, start to extend the fingertips up towards the sky. Awesome. Breathe here. Now, bring your hands to heart center. Pivot the back heel down. So my front heel is kind of in line with the middle of my back foot. And then I'm going to extend my arms in line with the shoulder. So my right fingertips are reaching forward. My left fingertips are reaching towards the back of my mat. Pay attention to what's happening in that front leg. Notice if your knee wants to cave in, can you think of opening up that knee towards the pinky toe edge of your foot? Bring that left hand onto the hip. Inhale, take your right arm to reach up and back, finding a little side bend through the body. Awesome. Come back to your warrior two. Straighten through your front leg. Poke your back hip out behind you just slightly. And then bring your right fingertips down onto your thigh. Maybe you stay here. Maybe you start to slide that right hand onto the shin. Make sure your bum's not poking out behind you. You want to think of tucking your bum in, keeping your core tight. Maybe the hand can reach all the way onto the floor, or bring a block or a book and just keep your fingertips on that block. You can stay here or reach the left fingertips up towards the sky. Awesome. Now start to bend that right leg. Drop the left hand down towards your block. So now we're framing the front foot. Pivot on the back toes. Remove the blocks out of the way if you need to. Option to bring your knees down. We're going to come to that high plank. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Now we're gonna work on upward facing dog. And I'll give you a few options here. So you wanna press the tops of the feet into the mat, squeeze the bum, start to push into the hands to pull your chest forward and through, and you want your knees and thighs to hover. This is a lot of work here. So option to use your blocks or your books. And again, same thing. Think of sinking the hips down, squeeze the bum, lift up out of the shoulders, and then lower your chest all the way down towards the floor to release that little back bend. Push your hands into the mat, come back to downward facing dog. Start to walk your feet up to meet your hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold it out. Curl the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. Head and neck come up last. Finding a comfortable distance with the feet, start to sink your bum back, knees forward, come back to that chair pose. Hold here. Bring your hands to heart center. Think of shifting your weight into that left foot and then stepping your right foot back towards the back of your mat. Inhale for your crescent lunge. Exhale, pivot that back heel down, open up the arms, warrior two. Moving just a slightly bit faster here. Then start to take your right arm to your hip, take your reach up and back. This is called your exalted warrior. Come back, warrior two, straighten through your front leg. Back hip pokes out behind you. Left hand finds your thigh, your shin, the floor, or the block, wherever it's comfortable for you. Think of stacking your shoulders one on top of the other. So if you were against a wall, your back would rest against the wall behind you. Yeah, maybe take your right fingertips up. And then bring a bend into that front leg. Bring your hands down to frame your front foot. Pivot onto the back toes. Move the blocks out of the way if you need to. Step your foot back, high plank or low plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale for your baby cobra or your upward facing dog. And then drop back down towards the floor. Come into child's pose. And just really take the time to rest the body, to catch your breath. And just know that some of these poses are very demanding of the body. So if you didn't really achieve them today, maybe it's something that you eventually work towards in your practice. From your child's pose, start to walk the hands back towards you. Shift your hips off to one side, sweep your legs out in front. And just straighten the legs out in front of you. Point your toes, engage the tops of the legs. Inhale, let's reach the fingertips up towards the sky. And then exhale, hinge forward. And just notice as you start to fold over the legs, if there's a big gap between your belly and your thighs, bring a slight bend into the knees. And if you know the shape that your body takes in your standing forward fold, it's going to be the same shape that your body wants to find on the floor. So for me, I usually have a slight bend in my leg, so it feels nice to bend my legs. That way I'm feeling it in my hamstrings. I'm feeling a nice stretch, a gentle stretch across my low back. And nothing forced. Just being very gentle with the body. And slowly start to walk yourself back up. Bring a bend into that right leg. Slide the heel of the foot towards your bum. And then step that foot over the left leg. My left hand's gonna come to my right knee, and my right hand's gonna come back behind me. Think of sitting up tall, reaching up through the crown of the head, and then twisting towards the right. Maybe take your gaze over that right shoulder. Awesome. Come back through center, just a gentle counter twist, just gently twisting towards the left. And then we'll switch sides. So stepping that right foot over, extending that leg, and we'll slide the sole of the left foot this time. Step it over the right. Right hand comes to left knee, left hand behind. Think of sitting up nice and tall. And then as you exhale, sink into your twist. Stay here for one more breath in. And exhale back through center. Uncross the legs. Bring both soles of the feet on your mat and just shift your bum up towards the top of your mat. And we're gonna roll all the way onto our back. This is the best part of the class, in my opinion. It's just the time to really relax and just allow the body to settle and feel the benefits from your practice. So just start to sway the knees side to side. Hug the knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little hug, a little sway side to side. Finding that massage across the low back again. And then bring the soles of the feet down and just start to extend the legs long on your mat. This is called our Shavasana. And just really a time to find rest, to find quiet, to find that sense of ease in the mind and the body. And bring your hands alongside the body, palms face up towards the sky. And take a long breath in through your nose. And exhale, maybe open mouth and just let everything go. Just releasing everything from your practice, releasing any tension that you're still holding on in the body. And finding that rest, that relaxation, and giving that time to really fuel that quiet side so you can be more present throughout your day-to-day life. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from my yoga practice is as you move through the poses, you start to get better at linking your breath with your movement. And it's almost like nothing else really matters because you're really focused on your breath, you're focused on the pose, you're focused on getting in and out of the pose. That awareness to every muscle in the body and the sensations that you're feeling and that way to control your breath, to ease your breath, to ease your heart rate. It really helps me to bring focus and clarity and patience into my everyday life. To really look for that in between, those in between pauses of life, to make space for them, to find my breath, to take deep breaths, to really be more clear with my everyday decisions, or to be more patient at work. And I invite you to stay here as long as you like and as long as you need. To really give yourself that time. When you're ready to wake up the body, just do so very slowly and very mindfully. But I will leave you here right now. Just thank yourself for taking the time out of your day, for making it onto your mat, for moving with your breath, and for honoring your breath. And for honoring wherever your body is at in your practice. Thank you for practicing, everyone. Namaste.